Quazi here. Today, we're stepping into the shadows, into a world of hidden power, ancient symbols, and guarded secrets that have quietly shaped history. Imagine a brotherhood of leaders bound by oaths who have passed down a code of transformation for centuries. A code that has empowered them to influence society, guide the hands of history, and unlock a level of personal power that most people only dream about. This brotherhood is known as the Freemasons. Now, the influence of this secretive group isn't just in the past, it's hidden in plain sight all around us. The layout of entire cities, the design of government buildings, even the symbols on our currency. People who are in power right now, they have been determined. These are no accidents. They hold messages meant only for those who understand the power of hidden knowledge. Behind these symbols lies a blueprint that reveals how to create transformation in our own lives, just as they have for hundreds of years. Think about it, a global network with millions of members and thousands of lodges all across the world. For those on the outside, it's just a distant mystery. But for the initiated, it's actually a journey, a ritual of symbolic death and rebirth, shedding the old self to rise into a new identity. These rites are more than just ceremonies. They're a transformation process that binds members to a powerful path, one that only a very few truly understand. Today, I'm going to reveal their hidden practices, the same ones that have empowered this brotherhood to rise to positions of influence and shape entire societies. Why is sacred geometry at the heart of their teachings? What's the true meaning behind their symbolic death and rebirth? And most importantly, how can you use these principles to reshape your own identity to master your own destiny? By the end of this video, you're going to see how tapping into these ancient teachings, these ancient hidden teachings, can become the key to creating the life that you want, just as it has been for the initiated for centuries. Let's get started. So to properly understand the power of Freemasonry, we have to understand that there are different ranks of Freemasons, kind of like in the military. And the higher up you go in the ranks, the more and more secrets you get to unlock. And you are pretty much sworn to secrecy that you will never reveal any of these secrets to the public. And that's why you rarely ever find any of these secrets ever in public circulation. And only if you look deep enough, you'll start to find them, but you'll start to notice they're very cryptic and they're written in riddles and it's almost poetic and it's very hard to decipher. It's almost an old language. But if we look at some of these ancient books, we can start to see some of these secrets. One of the main rank that a lot of people look up to is the 33rd degree Freemason. And that's really the highest rank you can get to. And that's part of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. There are different branches of Freemasonry. Once you go through the core 3 levels and you become a Master Mason, then you have the choice to go through with the Scottish Rite or the Blue Lodge. And in the Scottish Rite, the highest level is the 33rd degree Freemason. But what most people didn't know is the 33rd degree Freemason isn't the highest. There's actually something higher than that, and that is the Grand Cross, and it's only awarded to maybe a couple of people every single year. You have to become a 33rd degree Freemason, which is basically unheard of. And even then, to reach the Grand Cross, you have to be nominated, and people sometimes wait multiple decades to be nominated into that. So it's pretty much impossible to receive the Order of the Grand Cross, but there are a select few who have, and you'll see they're very, very old. They've waited for a really long time, but you can also tell they know some things that other people don't. Okay, so the very first symbol that appears in Freemason is Jacob's ladder. And Jacob was a biblical character, the great-grandson of Abraham, who once had this dream that there was a ladder going up to the heavens. And this ladder keeps appearing in Masonic symbols because this ladder symbolizes the moving up in ranks. And the more you move up in ranks, the more you reach the truth. Okay? And this closely resembles the work of David R. Hawkins in increasing your energy levels, learning how to go higher and higher up in the levels of consciousness. So if I put this diagram over here, what Dr. David R. Hawkins did was he was able to create a logarithmic scale of energy available. And so when you go from the level of, let's say, 200 to 201, it's actually a tenfold increase in energy. So it's completely logarithmic. And going from 200 to 300 is an extremely high level of energy. And this level of energy not only denotes the energy that is available for you to complete tasks, but how you reside in this earthly realm. And it was believed that the highest avatars, Jesus Christ, Zoroaster, the Buddha, they all were at the level of 1,000. The highest that in the human domain, as you are embodied in this human body, the highest level of energy you can reach. And I looked through a forum, and there was further discussions going deeper down the rabbit hole into this. And apparently archangels are at the level of 50,000 and God is at infinity. Right, so these are the different levels of energy. Now, most people reside at this neutral level of 200, the level of courage, and a lot of people, unfortunately, reside below that. And below the level of 200, the neutral level, is life-threatening. You're destroying life. You're living from a place of force. So, for example, at these levels of anger, fear, of shame, and guilt, you are not supporting life. You are actually fighting against life. It's forceful. It takes a lot of energy to support you. Okay? When you go above 200 at the level of reason, love, peace, joy, an immense amount of energy becomes available to you. And the process to moving up through these ladders, these rungs, is a process known as the surrender method, surrendering this pent-up energy within you instead of resisting it. So our natural tendency that we've been taught by society is to resist and fight. And why society does this is because if society can keep us at a certain level, okay? If the elites can keep us at a certain level in fear, in anger, in pride, they can mobilize us to do things. When people reach higher states of consciousness, they don't give a fuck about anything. They just don't care. They don't care enough to fight, go to war, or hold on to ideas. It's only when you're at these levels of pride, anger, and fear can you be mobilized to do something. Then you become a puppet. You're susceptible to being controlled by outside forces. So these outside forces like to keep you at this level. Freemasonry is designed to help you move up these levels to the highest levels of love, peace, joy, and ultimately enlightenment. So one interesting area that will allow you, the next part of this, which will allow you to move up in states of consciousness, is understanding the second key symbolism that appears in Freemasonry, and that is the all-seeing eye. As a kid, I was always fascinated by the Illuminati. You know, you see this people do this triangle thing, and it's cool, and some people say it's demonic, other people say it is not demonic, it's enlightening. But if you look at it, this symbol appears everywhere, even in the dollar bill, which is kind of eerie, right? Like the Constitution and everything was built upon that, and now it's all of a sudden appearing in the dollar bill. So this all-seeing eye seems to appear everywhere. What does this mean? The all-seeing eye actually refers to the primordial state that we're all in. The ancient yogis believed that everything came from nothing. Nothing took on form. Nothing started to become aware of itself. So the very first state after nothingness was awareness. And this awareness evolved into consciousness. Consciousness evolved into mind, and the mind created the body. Now, why do I say the mind created the body? Let's start over here. If you look at psychosomatic illnesses, they also lead to a physical illness. When you feel bad mentally, it leads over time to physical illnesses. You start to have pent-up muscle aches or back pain or knee pain, and these are all just things you've held in mind, things you've suppressed that are starting to act out physiologically. So this is where the placebo effect comes in so handy, because if you look at people who, sometimes they get cancer and they're on their last days and they're like, you know what, fuck it, I'm just gonna live freely. And I was reading a story of this one person who never, they got cancer and they never missed their 6 o'clock martini. And they just did this every single day, and they just spent their whole day just hanging out with their loved ones, just being joyful, spending their last days like, hey, this is my last few days. And then all of a sudden, they've just gone into complete remission. Cancer is gone. And they're like, wow, I should just live like this all the time. So when we live with stress, when we live in fear in these states of consciousness, it actually physically damages our body. And the placebo effect is so real that when you convince someone that they've taken something that might be a drug, the mind invents the drug and the symptoms of the drug and activates it within the body. So placebo effect, very real. Mind creates body. Consciousness is not localized within the mind. That's why consciousness is more so, I exist. Beyond consciousness to awareness is there is existence. I notice that I exist. I watch that I exist. And that's why this all-seeing eye becomes so crucial. The all-seeing eye symbolizes the primordial state of awareness, the watching, the all-seeing eye, the eye that watches, okay? So to actually move up in states of consciousness and move up along Jacob's ladder, one needs to take a step back from earthly problems that this body, this character is going through, and more so step into, there is a watching of this experience of problems. Do you see the difference? When I step back from my problems and I'm no longer so deeply identified with it, and I see that this character is going through an earthly experience and is having these problems, it's not so personal. As soon as you do that, you've immediately stepped into the state of acceptance, the state of consciousness of acceptance. And I believe that's around 350, 400, maybe, right around the level of reason. So when you step into acceptance, that becomes a tool for you to move up. That becomes a tool for you to step into love and joy and peace, because then you can love yourself. And love isn't just the presence of one feeling. If you notice love is kind of like the color white. The color white is the presence of every single color. Love is the presence of every single feeling and every single emotion. In love, we feel frustrated sometimes. In love, we feel fearful sometimes. When you love someone truly, sometimes they frustrate you. Sometimes you hate them. And if you're someone who has a spouse or a significant other, you know what I'm talking about. You fall in love, you don't rise in it. You fall and you mesh, you become one with that person. And every single one of your identities, your personas, they all come to surface. So just this practice of watching and being awareness is going to completely transform your life. I can guarantee that. And to begin doing that, simply look at any single problem or anything that triggers you and ask, who is it that gets triggered from this? Watch that character. There is a watching of this character becoming triggered. And as you do this and you keep taking a step back, the layers of the onion will be peeled. And something within your whole psyche will become activated to the point where you no longer become so attached, so sticky, so stuck to things and ideas and ideologies. You become completely transparent. You become empty in a way, in the best way ever. Okay? Which leads me to the next part that will allow transformation to happen. Learning how to shift your identity. Now, what's interesting is that this actually appears a lot in Freemasonry, and the appearance of this is in the Ashless Stones. So if you look at the Ashless Stones, there is a rough Ashless Stone that appears in Freemasonry and a perfect one. The rough one is the current 1.0 self that we are supposed to be. And when we reside as this 1.0 self, it is very, very flawed, it is very damaged, but necessary. The higher and lower selves. And then there is the perfect Ashless Stone. The goal is to transform into this perfect Ashless Stone, or rather have it become stronger and stronger. For most people, this old, rough Ashless Stone has become very strong, and therefore they're not experiencing what they want in their lives. But sometimes this rough Ashless Stone, I keep calling it old, this rough Ashless Stone is actually needed. Because there are different parts of us. There is that animalistic, that shadow side of us that we always keep trying to repress. And when we repress it, it starts to lead a life of its own. Until one day it starts to act out in such a way that you don't know how to control it. And a lot of people have this very strongly developed shadow side because they have put on this ego face, this mask. They've worn a mask for way too long. And when you keep wearing a mask for way too long, within you, a lot of resistance is built up. And sometimes it'll show up in a way that you won't like Diddy throwing Diddy parties. Other times in pedophilia in the church, many things that you won't like, that it's going to show up in. And so it's very, very important for you to address different parts of you. Just like the rough and perfect Ashless Stone, they are both needed. They're both present there. And they are both watched by that all-seeing awareness, that all-seeing eye. And the key with this is to understand how to transmute into your ideal self and make that stronger too. And that strength of the ideal self comes through one thing and one thing only. in you giving yourself permission to be your true self. What do I mean by that? People believe that the true self is one identity. It is not. It is the acceptance of every single part of you. When you accept every single part of you, Carl Jung calls this individuation. The bonds between each and every single part of you become very, very strong and intact. In the case of Jekyll and Hyde, the mistake Dr. Jekyll made was in unleashing Hyde. When you unleash a part of you and you just succumb to it, the bond between Jekyll and Hyde, it's completely weakened. The bond is no longer strong. What needs to happen is a settling into that tension of that feeling within you. So if you have certain tendencies, instead of trying to escape it, instead of trying to run away from it, let's say you have certain addictions in social media checking or binge eating or engaging in behaviors that just in general don't support you. Every time you get a craving for it, watch the craving and sit with the craving instead of acting and succumbing to the craving. Because every time we succumb to a craving, guess what happens? The bonds between your shadow side and your ego side, the face that you're trying to put on, and all the other personas, they start to weaken. And when it starts to weaken, then you can't control it anymore, okay? So it is very, very crucial to stay with the tension of the feeling. When you're experiencing something in your life that you don't like, for example, you're trying to start up a business or you're trying to fix your marriage and your relationship, and you just keep getting frustrated at the same problems, the same things that keep happening over and over again. This frustration is actually a sign that something within you needs to be surrendered and surrendered. You must surrender into the tension of that feeling. Because what we do, our natural tendency is to try and run away from that feeling because it's unpleasant. We always, as human beings, we've been trained to run away from unpleasant things, to run away from pain and move towards pleasure. That is the animalistic way, biologically lower developed way to live. But if you want to transcend and reach self-actualization, what truly needs to happen is in those situations where you are frustrated with your wife or your husband, or you are frustrated that that campaign that you launched in your business isn't going well, sit with the frustration. Use the all-seeing eye to watch that feeling of frustration and how it happens. Settle into that tension of that feeling. When you feel like you're losing in life and no matter how much you try, nothing is working and you feel like a piece of shit, just stay with that feeling of feeling like I am not good enough, I don't feel enough, no matter what I do, it's not enough. That feeling, that is crucial. Instead of the voice and the thoughts, go with that feeling and go deep into that tension. Like, yes, I am losing. Yes, I do feel like a loser. That is completely accepted. When you start to do this practice, I can't tell you how much your life is going to transform. Because what will now happen is instead of that unconscious resistance there once was, when you were unconsciously trying to escape that feeling by telling yourself, oh, no, I am good enough, I am good enough. Whew, don't speak like that. You're going to manifest it into existence. You're no longer afraid of manifesting undesired outcomes into existence. You're no longer afraid. And when you're no longer afraid, you actually stop resisting it and you allow good things to come into your life. Because he who has nothing to lose has everything to gain. And I believe this is the true teaching of the Ashless Stones, is to fully accept every single part of you. Even when you don't like yourself, even when you don't like your children or spouse or whatever it is, that too is allowed. You don't always have to fake being this goody two-shoes, because sometimes you're not going to feel good, and that's okay. It's in the acceptance of that you keep the bonds between your different personas intact, and you realize that every single persona, the feminine, masculine part, the inner child, the ego self, the shadow, these are all important. These are all there for a reason. And we want to, the wholeness, the acceptance of it is like love, is like light. It's the presence of every single persona, every single color, and every single emotion. So to take this teaching deeper, what I've gone and done is created a full guide on shadow work. It's like 30 minutes long. Over 900,000 people have watched it and have used the exercise that I mentioned in that video. If you want to access it, it's completely free. It's literally on YouTube. You can click right here to go and access it right now. I can't explain to you how powerful shadow work has been in my life, and it took me a really long time to come to terms with it because I thought it was just like a kooky thing, new age, spiritual people do. But until I actually tried it and I realized, wow, I had been suppressing a lot in my life had completely changed. So I would definitely recommend you click right here to access the video, and I'll see you in this next video right now. Thanks.